right, today we're going to talk about the Inside Star Citizen for engineering. Let's see how this goes.
Resource Network enables us to actually give you the gameplay that you were always looking for, which is having meaningful multi-crew gameplay, which means that it really makes sense to have multiple people running around on your ship, and that wouldn't be possible without the Resource Network.
So I would say the Resource Network is a system that allows all the items and components that are part of the ship to talk to each other.
Every ground vehicle, every base, everything that runs in Star Citizen with resources.
Fundamentally, Resource Network is a replacement for the pipe system we had in the past that you may have heard about.
We chose a similar system, basically doing most of what we're doing right now with the Resource Network, but in a way that was not as scalable as what we intend to do.
Landing complete.
So right now we just have one type of hydrogen fuel, but if we want to extend that in the future to having like multiple types that have some specific benefits on the thrusters, it's very easy now to add that resource. It's just a data setup.
So they say that you can have multiple types of hydrogen and it would have different benefits, but what about negatives? It'd be nice if, there was give and take with each of the types of resource, so you actually had to give up something.
I'm sure that's going to be part of it in terms of which one is going to be better for which situation. So like, I don't know, they said specifically for thrusters, so I can see like maybe we get some more lift-off power with one versus longer lasting fuel types with another, anything like that.
I do wonder what else it could be used for too, instead of just that, but we'll see what else they have.
Engineering is all about both maximizing the use you get out of the Resource Network and also getting the Resource Network itself going so that you're not dead in the water.
It's all things that players will be able to interact with. They will have to dedicate roles in their ships so that crew members are assigned to fixing those issues, and they can encounter more dynamic situations that will not happen in the previous systems.
The goal right now is to have all the components on the ship being physicalized. That means that the things that will take damage will be the components. That then means that those components are the reasons to the failure of your ship.
I'm really excited for them removing the traditional health system of the ships. I really hope that your ship doesn't really blow up anymore, and then you just repair it or get boarded or you have someone come and help you. It'd be a lot better than the current system where it's just you explode.
It would also be a lot better for like, currently we have the mission to shoot down a bunch of ships and get their cargo. Well, the problem is that most of the time you end up blowing up the ships, so you can't grab the cargo. So a system like this where your components are the ones that fault, but the ship itself doesn't go poof most of the times, would actually benefit just overall playability.
I think that's more of a problem with the ships that we have that make it hard to not blow them up, because usually those couple extra rounds just end up going from disable, oh, the bolts are still flying, oh, it exploded. So some weaker ships, it might be a little bit better, but...
The biggest thing we are aiming for is switching from your health pool of the bespoke ship to just moving that completely over to the physicalized component. So damaging the component is damaging your ship. I think this is the part where the biggest change for the players happen, because there the gameplay of repair comes in, and then you can revitalize your ship. So you can actually use your formerly dead in the water ship after exchanging or repairing the components. Your main responsibility is making sure that there's always enough life support resource produced to maintain a healthy atmosphere in the ship. So making sure that all the CO2 that you breathe out is actually converted into O2 again.
So I wonder what's the point of it, like if I have a helmet, because currently I put a helmet on before I ever leave a station and never take it off. So without that life support, why not just don't put any power towards it and just leave your helmet on?
Yeah, but then you can't see the new hairstyles.
I mean, I think the real thing is your suit has an oxygen amount, but usually the current amount you can pretty much get back to station before you run out.
That's true. We'll see if they say that there's going to be changes or anything like that where you only have a limited amount of time in your suit. But yeah, currently I don't really think it's useful. It's a cool feature that if you forget your helmet at the station, you're not going to be dead in the water.
Yeah, the benefits of just leaving it off seem to outweigh having your life support system running. You leave it off, you get no oxygen. That means you can't have a fire on your ship because there's no oxygen anywhere. And you only turn on your life support system if you need to refuel your oxygen in your suit. So it's like, why not just leave it off until you need it?
Or if you vented a room, that the room is filled again. If your room is getting too hot, it's cooled down again. So it's all about managing this resource inside the rooms. And as already mentioned in the previous episodes, it's life support management is also a good way to counter fire. Another aspect the players have to counter or react to is misfires on components.
Misfires are something that is already in the game in some form. Thruster charges, steel generator failure, stuff like that. We're just expanding it a bit. And pretty much the idea is that, items that are damaged, that are too hot, or that, for example, are very old and degraded, will start misfiring. In some cases, that will be that it will take some extra damage. In other cases, it will be that they will stop working for a while. Other times, they will work indefinitely until an engineer comes by and manages to do some repairs. And some of the worst cases.
So they just said that your components also will more likely be misfiring or should already be misfiring when they get old. Currently, I don't really have my components ever get old because I lose my ship too often. But overall, I think that will add to the gameplay that, if you're using your ship, you have wear and tear, just like you have wear and tear on a car in the real world.
The other thing with that is we need to stop, or not stop, but move away from using the reclaim button all the time. Because all we ever do is reclaim our ship. At this point, why would I repair my ship for 10K when I can just ditch it and reclaim it for free? You just have to wait 10 minutes. Everything else in the game takes forever anyway.
Cases would be starting a fire, or in the case of, for example, power plants, engaging in a critical reactor failure and taking the ship with them.
There is a chance that if the power plant reaches 0 health, it will run into a critical failure, and that critical failure then will cause the entire ship to explode. It will give the player the time frame to react to that, so either by removing the component and throwing it out of the door and preventing your ship to explode, or even countering it by repairing the component and bringing it up to life again.
So for that, I actually wonder if we can use them as like bombs or explosives. So can I set it up and then take it into a bunker and kill everyone in the bunker by making it explode? Or can I put it like literally right outside someone's door of their vehicle and make them explode? Or just toss them out of your vehicle like they're landmines?
For the initial release, we have a limited amount of misfires, but we are preparing the system, or we did prepare the system to scale well for the future, so we can introduce multiple misfires, and that leads us to damage penetration.
My only concern with multiple ways of misfires and stuff like that is that kind of what happened with Tarkov when they added more weapon jams and stuff like that. You just have to inspect it first and know what's going on. It's just a whole lot of stew of buttons that you need to memorize. So I'm hoping with the fact that this is more optimized to the point of, hey, I can put my multi-tool at it and repair it, that it's going to stay like that. And I don't have to do some weird button combination, figure out how exactly it works. But it sounds like it will tell you which component is failing and that you can just use your multi-tool or repair tool to repair it.
So damage penetration is a simplified version of what we'll be getting eventually with a more physicalized system, but essentially what it means is that now certain types of weapons can penetrate through the hull of a ship. This is a function of the weapon itself, its penetration values, and also of the armor of the ship, which can be depleted over time.
The goal here is that you first need to bring down the armor health value to get to the fullest potential of your penetrating weapons. Then you can...
So that's going to be really cool, because that makes it so that your ship just doesn't blow up, I think. You can penetrate the armor. I wonder how you're going to repair your armor, like on the go. Can you just use like a repair gun, kind of like how you would repair holes currently with the salvage stuff, if you can do that and repair the armor and give your whole health back while you're out on a longer voyage.
Yeah, you mean like basically repairing one panel at a time, more or less?
At least giving it some armor back.
That could be interesting. I also think like with now that there's like different like the armor that you need to penetrate through and stuff like that, there's actually more incentive to not just have the highest damage weapon to upgrade on your ship, but also have a variety of weapons. Like if you have multiple turrets, etc., you probably want something that's good at destroying the armor or the hull, and then you want something that's better at destroying the components.
Yeah, with the energy weapons, it'll be interesting because I feel like with the dynamic, it's going to be similar to kind of like Tarkov, where it's if you use ballistics, it's going to be just get the thing with the highest pen value. And that's if they make it so you can have different ammo types that have different pen values, which would be good for the economy. But then everyone's just going to chase the highest pen value. That way you can get through the armor faster. And then on the energy side, how useful is it anymore? If it only attacks the shield, then what's the point? What else does it damage? Can you still take out a ship with energy weapons? Or does it only damage the shields and the power? I guess it would damage the power too. So eventually you take out their power plant with energy weapons, but really nothing else of the ship.
Which, depending on what you're doing, could be enough to get the job done.
I mean, yeah, you take out power, that's basically their whole ship. So I guess I'll have to wait for it to come out for that one.
Penetrate the ship and actually damage the components that sit inside the ship and not on the outside of the hull.
Obviously, there's degrees to this. Larger ballistic weapons may have enough penetration against smaller ships that it will be able to penetrate directly, but it's all of a game of choices, and it's going to depend on your ships and your weapons.
So with damage penetration and misfires happening, that brings us to repair.
As your fight progresses and components take damage in your ship, it becomes the duty of some of your crew members to first investigate what are the issues caused by battle damage and go there to physically replace the parts in your ship.
So you have your multi-tool, so you have the salvage and repair, and the repair part of it also affects now ship components, precisely like what you see in the Arena Commander mode. You will be able to repair items that were fully destroyed. You will not be able to repair the item to its fullest, so you cannot repair an item that got fully destroyed to 100% health again. So to repair your ship components to the fullest, you actually have to bring them to the shop again and do the station repair.
So he says repair to the fullest. I really hope it's when you go back to the station, instead of to the fullest, it's like to 90%. And the next time is to 80%. So eventually you have to replace your parts. Otherwise, once you get the best item in the game, there's no point in playing anymore.
Except for if you don't want to pay the fee at the station. If you repair it yourself, it will not go back to 100%. So eventually you'll have to replace it. But yeah, it sounded kind of like he was saying that if you repair it at the station for the cost of however much, it will be fully like new.
Yeah, and I don't know how much I like that. I don't want it to be degrade too quickly, but if you are taking those higher risks to get the better loot, it would be nice to be excited about getting 2 really good generators rather than just getting 1 and being like, well, that's the only one I need, and all the other ones that you find are just garbage because you don't need them.
If you did think ahead and brought spare items with you, you can simply exchange them to pristine new ones. But with the caveat, it only works, just as a reminder, for size 1 and size 2 components. Size 3 and above cannot be exchanged using the tractor beam detach and attach mode. So now that we looked at what your responsibilities are in the physical space running around in your ship, let's take a look at what you do on the virtual part, which is power management and analysis of your ship on the engineering screen. So the first thing that you will see is the 3D view of your ship that highlights the location of all the ship components and how they are actually connected. where the relay positions are, what's the status of the relays are. You will see the holograms of each component.
As you can see, they have different colors. What they are representing is the overall state of the item. So an item that is very damaged, or it's on fire, or it's not getting enough power will be in a critical state. Items that are less damaged, are receiving only partial resources, or are going through a misfire, may have moderate colors. And items that are...
So I saw all the colors in there. When he expanded it, the only thing I don't like is typically when I see red, it's like the worst. So it should go at the top, not down below. And it should be whichever one's the worst should be the highest priority.
I could kind of agree with that, but it looks like it could be almost in the order of importance. Like your coolers are the top ones, where your shield generator, which is also red, is lower down because your ship can still function without shields. It's just, more vulnerable.
Less damage, are receiving only partial resources, or are going through a misfire, may have moderate colors. And items that are otherwise fine will have the functional or blue colors.
The biggest change that happened to the engineering UI screen is basically the power management part of it. We moved away completely from slider control for every individual item. There is indicator now for fuel. This is not relevant.
So if you also see you don't have enough power to max out every single component. So there's a bunch of empty spots, but you've used up all of your generator supply. So you will not be able to max every single component with power, and you will have to play with it depending on how it is in combat, which is another reason to not use life support. At least when you enter combat, turn it off. You use that power somewhere else.
As long as you bring your own helmet, you should be good to go. But I think this is actually good because it makes the gameplay in itself more important, because if you could just max everything, what's the point? You're just gonna run out with a max and not ever play with it. But since you can't max everything, it's gonna be more up to the individual player to determine, like, hey, am I gonna focus more on shields and running away, or weapons, or anything like that? So I think that's kind of good.
Relevant for the initial release, but it will be relevant for the future. Next to it, you see the power plant. The power plant segments gives you an idea of how many power segments you can distribute to the ship items.
And on the right of each of the power bars, you can generally see the temperature bar. If it goes into overheating, the item will stop both consuming or producing, and it will be completely inoperable until it cools down again. So that means that assigning power to your coolers in advance is probably a good idea if you are going into a fight.
All the items on your ship generate heat, so this is where you can see the amount of heat that each item has accumulated, and you can see the amount of coolant that you are producing, and whether or not you are also running a deficit. So what you want to do is put as much power as you can into the coolers until your items do not overheat, but do not assign more resources than necessary because you are running a limited pool of resources.
The same applies to the life support generators. So you have to make sure that you produce enough life support resource that the demand is fulfilled in your ship. If your demand isn't fulfilled, it will cause some failures.
So no life support will cause some failures. But what are those failures? If we go back, what happened when he took it away? So it's there. He removes it. It just says life support temporary disabled. So what could it be? So we don't know what type of failures no life support would cause.
And he did mention there's some sort of demand for it. So I'm assuming he's not talking about just, you're breathing without a helmet situation. Something else might be needing the life support, but we don't know what that is either.
Fulfilled, it will cause some failures.
There's also a notifications panel. Here the main warnings about the state of the ship will be displayed. If an item is damaged, doesn't get enough power, or is misfiring, it will create a warning. You will be able to see it as a notification. Take a look at it, go to the item, or just remove it.
So you have an option that allows you to basically log the controls so that you or the pilot, which has access to the MFD, which shares some of the power management functionality, do not conflict with your controls. So by locking this, you are able to override the MFD settings to only have it being authoritative from the engineering station.
You are able to take the power.
So by doing that, you can actually have sabotage gameplay. If you can get to the engineering, you can lock people out and start playing with the power.
And when you have a crew, you got to be on the same board as everybody else, because otherwise whoever your engineer is might screw over your plan. So you got to actually communicate.
Our assignment you have at a given time and save it locally on your computer, meaning that when you fly again with this ship, or even if it's not your ship but somebody else's ship, you can quickly apply your presets. This is very useful in the middle of combat, and you can quickly switch to a combat preset where you will give, for example, more power to shields, weapons, and thrusters, or at the same.
The preset thing will be super nice with the fact you can get in somebody else's ship. That means you could be like a dedicated engineer and have profiles for like every type of ship, and you can just board one and be their engineer. So that part's really cool, and you don't have to create new ones for every single person's ship.
Yeah, I think that's a nice add-on.
In time, you may want to have some nap mode preset where you reduce the power to everything and just put it on the bare minimum, so there's no degradation or misfires related to power use.
So you can set a preset on your ship and then jump on somebody else's ship and load it up?
Did you hear that though? So as you use components, they degrade.
Mm-hmm.
So just the use of them goes into their durability and makes them break.
Which is kind of nice, and we've been talking about this before, that you don't want like just your best component to exist forever.
Indeed, your presets are stored locally, so as long as you have access to the screen and you're using the same ship, you can apply a preset. Obviously, if the components have changed or the ship has a different loadout, the preset might not apply perfectly and you might need to adjust it, but it gives you a quick baseline on how your power is assigned.
We hope that with these changes, players will have more varied opportunities to experience the game. We'll encounter more situations where it feels relevant and enjoyable to have multi-crew gameplay in the ships, so that you do not think it's just about filling in the battle positions like the turrets and the pilot seats, but it's more involved gameplay to actually manage your ships and try to.
I'm sorry, but I don't find the turrets actually all that helpful. Currently, it's better just to have people have more ships, because the pilot generally has more powerful guns. So if you get more people with more ships, then you just get more damage output in general. And it outweighs the risk of engineering currently, because there is no engineering. So when there is engineering, that actually might be a bit better to actually have a crew.
To fix the ongoing situation that occur within them. And we also hope that this makes larger vehicles, which have more interior space, both more troublesome but also more enjoyable to play with.
We are still working hard to get it done for all of you. There are ships that already have the functionality. There are still ships that we are working on. But overall, we are super excited to finally get it into the PU. So the Arena Command Experimental Mode was already fun to observe what you can do with the entire system. And now with having the feedback from that, adjusting the gameplay a little from the feedback that we received from you, I am really looking forward to see what you all will be doing with it.
I really like I like the idea of them giving us the tools and allowing us to play the game. That's a lot better than them telling us how we should play the game.